All right.
So I'm on our page, and it should tell me we're live. Might take a second. There we are. It says we're live. We are live. I believe it now. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Live News. There are three of us at the moment. You've got me and a couple of Americans. I will be departing shortly
And
because
this tyranny will end.
I've got the dreaded man flu, so it hurts to talk, and I'd rather not be blowing my nose every 5 minutes for you. So I'll tell you what I've been up to this month. I'll hear what the other two have been up to this month, and then I shall leave.
Hiring Hessians to do your dirty work.
I think so. Well, it's all our dirty work. We do dirty work together. So I need to make sure that's muted. It is muted. So what has happened this month? So first off, it was Play Blackpool a couple of weeks ago. And me and little Ben went. We met up with Gareth, who I've mentioned before on the show. We generally see him at expos. We all hung out. Gareth brought a mate along. And we had a good time. Went to the expo, played some games, drank some beers, ate some curries. It was good. It was a decent show. Bumped into a few people I've not seen for a while. Had a good old chat with Baggers. Sean Holly from Tenpence Arcade, former barman at Arcade Club. And so, what else did we do? So, yeah, we found my favourite thing of the expo was this 4-player Sega Hot Rod. So, you've heard me talk several times about the Sprint 8 machine where 8 people stand round the screen and race against each other. So this was a 4-player version similar to that, but it's Sega Hot Rod. Just a great game, great fun. Adds a few more dimensions to the gameplay of Sprint. You know, you win points when you win races, and you can buy customizations for your car, better tires and things like that. Lots of different terrains, and so sometimes you need to change the tires if it's a winter course, etc. But just a great fun game to play with 3 other people. There was a new vendor there. I say new to me. I've not seen them before, and they just had some just stuff I've never expected to see before. So they've got all the usual stuff. But then also they've had lots of things in boxes, a lot of Japanese stuff. Someone's dropped out of the call. There, they're back again. So they had like a boxed Sharp X68000. They had a boxed MSX, a boxed Microvision, just loads of really cool stuff that you never would see in boxes. Now, obviously, they fetched a premium price, but you couldn't see a lot of prices. There weren't prices on some of those things, but yeah,
Did you see what the boxed Microvision went for?
I didn't see what price it was. No.
I've always been curious because I've literally seen 2 complete sets for sale ever, and one was 2009, I think, at CGE. And I walked in, and I remember the folks that had it. They used to sell all the Atari XGS stuff that was still around. And I walk up, and they have the Microvision boxed, immaculate, all the games, everything all together. Couldn't have been more perfectly preserved. And I was like, fuck yeah, give me that. And I've only seen like one for sale since in that kind of condition.
Yeah. Never seen a boxed one before. Seen a few loose, but no battery covers, that kind of thing, but never seen a boxed one.
So just while we're talking about it, because I don't want to forget to mention it, I covered it in Hardware Flashback some time ago, but there is a guy somewhat near me. He lives, I don't know, maybe an hour away, and he is selling, or at least recently was selling, replacement screens, LCDs, and replacement backlit LCDs. So if you have a Microvision with a rotten screen, at least at some point, replacement screens were available. So
yeah, I picked one up. I didn't get the backlit one, but it's a really easy fix as well. It didn't work first time. I thought, oh, shit, I've fucked it up. But it was just a case of really giving all the contacts, particularly the game cartridge, contacts and those pins on the console itself. Give those a really good clean, and then it came on like new. So yeah, really easy upgrade to do, and necessary because my screen was fucked. Next up, so near me, I saw it in. So there's an online version of a local newspaper that I read, and I saw a story about a Northwest computer museum, and it's opening up. It's like literally 11 or 12 minutes away from me. There's an old mill, and it's one I'm going to take Scott to next time he's over. So this mill, it's like two huge buildings, and it used to, it's like an old cotton mill kind of thing, and it used to run on steam, and they've rebuilt the steam engines, and they run them on compressed air every so often, so you can go in and see the steam engines running. And the rest of the mill, they've like gone through, put a new roof on it, they've broken it up into units, and you've got like businesses going in there now, renting it as workspace. So you've got like a floor just full of artists and, seamstresses, people like that. They've got a cinema in there that shows classic films. And they've now got a Northwest Computer Museum. So it's not open yet. It's a work in progress, but it will be open soon. I say soon. It's going to be next year, I would think. But it's like the one they have in Cambridge. It's going to be the same sort of thing, lots of old computers, a timeline of computers. They're going to have an office of the 70s that you can go in and literally, do some work and print it on a dot matrix printer. They're going to have a little side room that's sponsored by Arcade Club, and they're going to have arcade machines in there. They're going to have a classroom so local schools can go in and use the classroom to learn coding and build robots and all that kind of stuff. So great community space. So I registered as a volunteer there. I've been down a couple of times now helping out. Mainly at this stage it's lugging old computers about from one place to another while, you get one room ready, then you move them again. And so a lot of prep work at the moment. But that's going to be a cool place to hang out. And they're going to have guests coming down. So when that happens, they're going to use the cinema. It's about 120 seats, something like that, maybe a few more. And brand new seats, all nice, comfy auditorium style. So we're going to have guests in there, and I'm going to be doing the interviews in there. So be some good content for the show and a good night if you can make it down there for that. There's also a cafe in the same building. It does really good food, so it's just going to be a cool place to hang out. I'm glad it's just around the corner from me.
How far away from you is it?
Literally about 11, 12 minutes. I timed it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's great.
Man, I got to tell you, it was something that, we've observed for years. The difference between the U.S. and U.K. when it comes to like expos is here the expos all work together, but nobody will step up to do shit.
Mm-hmm.
And in the UK, everybody will step up to do something, but they all fucking try and kill each other. It's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
But, there are a few small computer museums. There's one out in California. It's pretty good. There's a few, and I'm hoping there'll be more eventually. But, man, I mean, it's a rough thing because I don't know that there's the interest here. I mean, there are people who care, but I mean, if you opened up a computer museum, I can't imagine the draw would be meaningful. It sucks. I just don't think that Americans are just that much in love with retro computing.
Yeah, well, maybe if you build it, they'll come. Who knows? Movies, not really watched too many movies. I know the new Halloween is out. I'm going to watch that on Tuesday with Millie. Not expecting too much. The last one was pretty shit. Hopefully this one's better. The last one ever, they say. So we'll see. I did watch one called Who Invited Them. It got recommended to me. Don't bother. It was pretty awful, pretty predictable. TV shows, Brassic, I've mentioned it before. That came back for another season. That's a good comedy filmed, not too far from me. Good show. Books. So I did have some book news. Smoke and Mirrors is now available on Amazon. It will be coming to other online stores, and I'm told some brick and mortars as well. So when I first, finished it, I've touted it around some publishers. I might have told this before, I can't remember. Um, excuse me. I touted it around a few publishers and got, polite declines. No, it's not right for us right now, or we're not doing that kind of book at the moment, or, it's just not the right time for us, whatever. So I self-published, and then a few months later, maybe a year later, one of them got back in touch and said, okay, we want to do it. So I signed a contract with them, and it's finally appeared on Amazon. So if you go to the store on CalicoChameleon.org, you'll see it for sale there. The price may change slightly at the moment. It's a bit weird when you put it on Amazon. They do like a print-on-demand thing, but then there's something else you can do after that, which makes it available next day to Prime. I think at the moment it's like 4 or 5 day turnaround, but it will change to a next day on Prime. So it may be on other stores at the moment as well, which also means that you can get the hardback version again. So I just did one print run of hardbacks and then left a button on the site that said, if you want a hardback, let me know, register interest, that kind of thing. And a few people did that, so I got back to them and said, okay, you can pick up a hardback on Amazon. So that happened. And games-wise, I've been working on the vertical MAME cab that I picked up, so making good progress with that. Done all the woodwork on it. I've brought it inside the house now, so I finished all the woodwork, gave it a good clean. I've not gone all out on this. The first cab I did, I thought, I'll make it pristine, and I covered it all in vinyl, sanded everything down, filled it, vinyled it. This one, I've cleaned up the T-molding and stuff. That's not too bad. It's got a few battle scars on the side, but I thought, no, I'm going to leave them. But I built a new base for it, and so work is progressing on that. Now, behind me, if I spin that away, maybe you can see the screen behind me. It's a 21-inch CRT PC monitor, and it used to work. I've had the thing years. It's just been moving houses with me and in storage. It's not quite firing up, so the lights come on but no one's home, so I'm looking to get that fixed because I want a CRT in it. So it may be that I just in the short term put a flat screen in while I repair the monitor behind me, but work is progressing on that. And I continued playing a bit of Driver 76 on the PSP, which I'm enjoying. And for Christmas, I'm going to treat myself to a Steam Deck. So that will be incoming at some point. And that, with my sore throat and runny nose, is about me for the month.
Now, can you give us just the first verse of any ZZ Top song of your choice? I'm shuffling through the Texas state,
man.
but my head's in Mississippi. Well, I have been honestly, God, I've got this military Humvee project that I've been grinding away at for 2 years. And it's one of those things where it's just one thing after the other. I got to wait on one part before I can do the next part. And then I discover, another issue. And it's all getting done. It's just taking forever. So I wanted to have this thing done before the winter, to have it available. And I took a period of vacation time I had kind of saved up and hammered away at it, and quite literally almost got done, but not quite. Tremendous progress was made. The interior is complete. It's all nicely done. The drive line is almost there. I'm just waiting for 1 or 2 last minute parts. But I did manage to, since I had a little extra free time, I did manage to get a good bit done on some classic computing stuff. I finally kind of went through, and I literally, sometimes you got to do this. I unplugged everything, cleared everything off the bench, and rethought kind of how I did it. So the way I've got sort of the layout here in the studio is I've got, some big, PC monitors and all that, and the keyboard mouse is, and I finally centralized the mouse. So I have the Amiga mouse, the PC mouse, and a serial mouse kind of all on a larger mouse pad. and you just kind of shove them around and get to what you want. And then on the to the right of that, I've got a monitor that is, well, the whole stack is, I've got a monitor stand that is kind of a hard one to find, that actually fits the Tandy 1000HX, which is my main DOS computer. And the Tandy computer's underneath that. Then I've got a Tandy MMS 10, which is my favorite piece of vintage audio. It's a neat little speaker system. It's all self-contained. You plug it into the wall, and then it's got actually reasonable inputs and outputs. It can drive external speakers, but it has its own really good quality speakers, two mid ranges and a subwoofer. The whole thing is about the size of a large notebook computer, like an old school one. So about 3 inches thick by, about the rectangular dimensions of a laptop. And has just really good sound. I think that the sound really matches the character of the computers. So I got a multi, like a 10-way HDMI switch with audio extractor. So now and then I went through, and all the computers, like for example, the C64, that has HDMI out, as does the Amiga 500, the new Mini. Not Mini. Well, the Amiga's Mini, the Commodore 64 is full size. Those are all HDMI out natively. Everything else, I went through and either built or bought an HDMI solution. So the Tandy goes into a RGB to VGA adapter. Well, what it does, basically, it takes the CGA and gives you HDMI out, and then the sound is injected onto that. My new big build of my Turbo XT in the Sun computer case, that one I used VGA to HDMI. It's a very tiny chip, and actually it's powered by USB. It fits inside the cable's head. So really, you just screw it onto the VGA connector, plug into a USB port, and it gives you HDMI out from VGA. So everything I have, and then I've got, like a vintage K62. That's sort of my DOS Windows 95 gaming rig. So all those computers are now either natively or with an adapter upgraded to HDMI. So what I can do is I can turn on this MMS 10 sound, the speaker system, and I can sit there with a remote control. It's the coolest thing ever. This remote has like 10 little buttons on it, and you can just sit there and you can flick through the channels of all your retro computers. So, I have like the Commodore on, the Tandy on. I can just sit there and flip, and the picture on the monitor changes and the sound changes. It is just the coolest setup. I'll cover that in maybe a little more detail in Horror Flashback, but that was sort of my major retro computer accomplishment. I do have the modem, the Wi-Fi 232. Basically, it bridges your retro. It acts like a modem to your computer, and it connects to your Wi-Fi. So what you can do is you can connect your vintage computer to the web, and then that lets you do telnet access. So basically, you can connect to BBSs again, and also transfer files and all that. But everything that can be networked is networked, or everything I care to network. So it just turned out to be a really nice setup. I'm really pleased with it. And then I also upgraded the sound in the studio. For the longest time, I had a decent set of like Sony speakers with the subwoofer, and it was always adequate, but I decided, fuck it, I want to go all in. So I picked up a really cool Logitech setup. I don't have the model number handy, but it was very reasonably priced. I think it was about $380. But it comes with a really powerful sub. I mean, the sub is no joke on this thing. And then what they do is they give you a display head. So the control head is about the size of I don't know. It's reasonable. It's got like a dial in the center and then buttons to select the modes and the inputs and all. And that just connects down to the subwoofer with a remote cable. So they're doing all the processing and everything on a board inside the sub. And then your center, left, right, rear, all that connects. And it has plenty of, digital and optical inputs and analog too. So everything I've got, the computer, the the TV, all that stuff is now connected into that through the opticals. I do have the analog headphone output of the Tandy sound system connected into this thing, so I can put on King's Quest 3 and shake the room. It's really damn cool. Um, but I gotta tell you, this thing, it does not disappoint. This Logitech unit, the little control box, I've got it sitting just under the monitor, and I can hit a button, switch it over to the TV, play, watch Game of Thrones or whatever. Flip it back over to the PC, listen to stuff on the PC. Is just fantastic, and the sound quality is tremendous. No hiss, pop, nothing. So, anyway, I'm very pleased. I finally sort of rewired everything, and then of course, as we're doing setting up for the show today, one of my soundboards I've had for 15 years decided it was going to retire. So that's that.
Just while you mentioned the TRS-80, I've been lumping those around the museum. We must have about 7 or 8 of them, the big old things with the...
the built-in monitor?
Yeah, we've got
so like a Model 3, Model 4, yeah.
Yeah.
So funny enough, I just did, I actually forgot to mention it when I was running through stuff there. I just got a Model 1. It's got level 2 basic with the lowercase mod and all. And it is a Tandy TRS-80 Model 1. So that's one I've always kind of wanted to do. So I'm going to do one of the builds, with the expansion box and, basically every ridiculous module you can snap onto a Tandy TRS-80. So it really is. It's a very interesting computer. It's so much the poorer cousin of the C64 in that it's roughly the same form factor. But whereas the C64 had just this incredible sound and, dedicated sound chip, dedicated video chip, and did such an amazing job of architecting, that kind of format, the TRS-80 was built to cost, and it's amazing. It's just a CPU that can either connect to a speaker or can draw to the screen or process some code, but not any of the three at the same time. It's a very primitive black and white beast, but it's a cool one. I mean, they literally, at one point, I think it was 90% of the public or 97% of the public, some ridiculous number, lived within 5 minutes of a Radio Shack, and they sold a bazillion of these things, and they were everywhere. So, we had them in school and all that. So, the TRS-80 is kind of almost like maybe like the BBC Micro or something of the US, but it's cool to have that thing now. So, I'll be doing something cool with it for the hardware flashback.
Nice. Let's see. Pretty busy month for myself. I attended a work event, was down in Orlando, Florida. So got to go to, my company sent me to Universal Studios. Hadn't been there in many, many years. So it's crazy different since I've been last. They have 2 parks. I had a park hopper, which was pretty dope. So I was able to kind of go back and forth. Got to see the Halloween Haunt. Big fan of B-horror movies and whatnot. So I was kind of surprised. I was looking to get some good like Michael Myers swag and stuff like that. And I was able to pick up a couple sweatshirts. I got like a nice Halloween sweatshirt. One with Child's Play, and the back has like Chucky with a knife and it's all cut up and it says snitches get stitches. Picked up a Black Phone shirt. Watched the Black Phone, the movie. Pretty decent horror movie. Just kind of getting ready for Halloween over here. As far as playing games, was playing some Lords of Thunder on TurboGrafx 16, trying to get back into some TurboGrafx stuff. Man, I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to lose it on my shmups. Not nearly as good as I used to be, but always enjoyed that one. And then my youngest, we just had a birthday party for her at one of these fun centers where they have, all the redemption games, laser tag, go-kart, stuff like that. And it's so frustrating, man, because I am like good with those claw games, and I just know that they're friggin' rigged. Like they had one where there was Super Mario Mushrooms, and literally the claw came down, went perfectly over the mushroom, grabbed it, would pull it up to the top, and friggin' drop it every single time. I did it 11 times in a row because I was like, okay, it's a buck a swipe. Like,
You showed
surely.
them.
No, and I figured, I'm like, okay, there has to be some kind of counter in here that it knows, like, once out of every 10 grabs or something, it hits the number where the claw's at full strength or something, you know?
It
So
just doesn't. I mean, dude, there are ways to set those up, but the claw machines are very simple. The PCB is dead nuts simple. All it really does is take your quarter, turn on, and let you move the claw around, and then press the button and drops in it, and it does a cycle. There's no secret code. There's no secret counters. This is a very primitive device built by very unsophisticated engineers.
yeah, but these are like
However,
new.
where they get you, where they can do the sort of, I don't know if you'd call it cheating, but the payout ratio, a lot of that
Yeah.
has to do with if you look at the shape of the claw, the way they sort of spread out and how they're smooth and all, it's designed to sort of slide around something and slide around something the other way. The heavier ones, like the prizes that are heavier, will slide through those claws instead of kind of being picked up in them. And you can set the spring tension. There's all different springs, and there's different little places to attach them. But if you go in there and just yank the spring and then put it in there, the claw, it'll make a nice, satisfying little snap. As basically the weighted claws are falling down, touching each other, and it sounds like it's nice and springy. When in reality, if you held your hand out and lowered the claw over and brought it up, you'd barely feel it. So it is mechanically what you think it is. It's just not being done through sophisticated electronic means.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like some of these new ones, they have like a randomizer for when the claw's at full strength. Based on some of the stuff I've read on these newer ones. But anyway, so I blew $11, didn't get the damn mushroom, was kind of bummed. And then I had like $2 left on my card, as like all the kids were going to the redemption counter. So I just swiped it, was able to grab one of these like giant Japanese cats or something. It just randomly, like, I mean, man, that thing was like a vice grip. It was just like and grabbed it. And every other time I tried these things, it would like, you know, it was like so flaccid. It would just like barely grab anything. So I don't know. I feel like there's something to it. But the good news is, out of all the shitty redemption games that they have at these places, you can occasionally find like the giant Pac-Man or the giant Space Invaders. And apparently Ice also makes a giant centipede. I think it's called Centipede Chaos. I hadn't seen this one before. Um, but man, so friggin' good. It's 3-player, and you get tickets for playing it. And I cleaned up. Boy, did my centipede skills come in handy. I mean, I fucking own this game. And then there's like some kind of shadow spider. I want to say it's like 9 levels or something. You get 3 lives and you can swipe to continue. But when you get to the final boss, you got like one shot to beat them. And I just danced around all over the screen and beat it and got 1,000 tickets. So I looked so cool in front of all these 10-year-olds. They're like, "Oh my god, you beat the shadow monster on Centipede." Um, I would love to have one. I think, it's. Have you played any of those large, giant Space Invaders or any of that?
Oh yeah, in fact, I
Have
think
you
it was
played the Centipede one?
yeah, I think it was the Space Invaders one specifically that I played a good bit recently in Vegas. Yeah, it's kind of like the you're talking about the giant LED ones, where it's like a large format.
Yeah, but this one is made by Ice, so I don't think it's the same manufacturer. I mean, it has the Atari logo on it and stuff. Um, but this one's just like, I don't know, maybe like a 80-inch LCD or something. It's 3-player. You kind of sit down and.
Oh
But
yeah, I've
man,
seen
that
those. Yeah,
that
I the one that I thought you were talking about was the ones with the giant LED boards. I've seen the ones you're talking about, but I'm also a big fan of those LED ones. It's just
yeah,
novel and different.
Yeah, I like those. I mean, I played a couple of those yesterday as well, but I just and then it had me firing up some Centipede last night, and I was playing it on emulation, and then I'm like, you know what? I need Centipede on my phone too. So I started digging around the App Store, and I can't find a good Centipede or even a decent Centipede clone, which is kind of a head scratcher. I'm like, surely Atari is willing to shill out Centipede, right? Nope, can't find it. So I don't know, listeners, if you know how I get Centipede on my cell phone, or if I'm just an idiot not looking at the right place or something. But I'm like super hype on Centipede now just because I own this friggin' game. And like I was able to walk out of that joint with like several basketballs and like piles of candy. I mean, because most of those things are designed like, I want to say like a, for $1.50 to $2, you're kind of getting like 15 tickets or something. And I was cleaning up getting 1,000 tickets like every time, just owning that thing. So um anyway, I'm all hype on that. And let's see, as far as my bourbon pickups, I was gifted very kindly a George Dickel limited reserve 17 year, which is a 350 milliliter. That was released in 2016. So that one's gonna go on the shelf but do not drink list eventually. My basement's coming along. Um, I don't know. We had screwed up cabinets come, send them back. They sent back the wrong size, shipped those back, got new ones. Those were damaged, shipped those back, more damaged shit. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe eventually in the next year I'll be able to finish this damn basement. But doing that. Let's see. Movies, like I said, I saw Black Phone, pretty decent little horror flick. I was maybe expecting a little more action, but that was good. I've been hearing a lot of stuff about this Terrifier 2, so I'll probably check that out and give a review by next show. As far as shows, completed the Lord of the Rings, Power of the Rings thing. I thought that was good. I thought that was really well done. I don't know. And then also Game of Thrones. I just finished up episode 9. The season finale is on tonight for the 10th, and pretty hype about that. Just been loving those two shows. Started watching a little Ted Lasso. I was talking to UK before the show. I don't know, just kind of hadn't watched it yet and was looking for something for my plane flight while I was at the hotel and everything. So I've been checking out Ted Lasso, and I don't know. I just started season 2. It goes pretty quick. I think I like season 1. The writing was a little lighter. Humor wasn't quite as serious as season 2, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not really like a football fan. Um, the UK football, soccer for us here in America, but uh, there was some pretty good, clever writing in it. So if you're looking for something, you kind of run out of things to watch. Ted Lasso, not a bad choice, and looking forward to diving into some news here.
All right, I'm going to leave it in your capable hands. Yeah, I don't think you need to be a soccer fan or even a sports fan for Ted Lasso, really. I think a lot of stuff happens off the pitch anyway. It's a good show. So I will drop into chat in the other room shortly. Leave news to you two. Maybe drop me a WhatsApp when you're wrapping up in case I nod off, and I'll join you for the end and stop the stream and all of that. So have fun.
All righty. I wish I had the other board set up. We could have played some nice fife and drum music now that we've expelled the red coats.
Yeah. All right, let's dive into it.
Let us do exactly that.
All right.
Well, dive.
I'm trying to pull up.
Mike's been gone for 3 seconds. It's already going sideways.
No. You know what? And my apologies. So the last couple shows, I've had like probably pretty terrible audio. Was having some issues with the headphones. I got a new headset, but the computer is all jacked up. So I'm on like a kid's computer right now. So I got this one in from Spinal Cord. Let's see here. Da, 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 da. This popped in my Twitter. Thought you guys would like it. It is a TikTok video, and it is a Super Mario Brothers theme. And these kids are playing on these like little plastic. I don't know. They're playing the Super Mario theme, sliding across plastic tubes or something, slapping them on their knees. They do it really well. The video quality's kind of far off, but yeah, I don't know. There's crazy shit on TikTok. They're doing Super Mario, and it is a very good rendition. So you'll see that in the show notes.
So, got another one here from Spinal Cord, and it's here's a super cool original Game Boy mod. So, it's a long I mean the video is only 4 minutes long. He's just showing off kind of the highlights, but it wasn't a short process for him to build this thing. Basically what he did is he took a Game Boy, original first gen Game Boy, and he flipped it sideways. So he used a different screen, modern reproduction controls and all, and he managed to rotate the whole Game Boy, so now it's in landscape format, which was pretty cool. I got to thinking of it as soon as I saw the video. I got to thinking, would I've always said for years that had the Game Boy come out with just had it been the Tetris Boy and only had Tetris, I think it would have still been a very successful Nintendo product. Very successful. And I think if it had come out in landscape, that would have been a very interesting format. I mean, because eventually they did go to that format, kind of on and off, depending on how you can settling eventually with the DS on it. But interesting little mod here. So good
Why?
work there.
Why do you think it should have been landscape?
I don't know that it should have been. I think it would have. It tended to work out later, like because TVs are landscape, right? And if you look at like the Sega, the
Game
Game
Gear.
Gear, and the
Yeah.
Nomad, and other things, the Nintendo with the DS, I think it gives you a little more to do with splitting the controls up a little further apart. I kind of like both. I had no problems with the what do you call it, the ergonomics of the original Game Boy. I thought it worked pretty good. But what if it had come out in a landscape format? I think that would have been interesting. I think it would have been successful. I don't know if it would have changed things, but I think it would have been very successful.
Yeah, you know what? That's really kind of interesting as far as like a user experience. I know like the Wii U, the Steam Deck, the PSP, the Game Boy, like so many of these things, the links. You really had your hands on the sides where the screen is sort of between your hands. Um, you know, with not weight distribution and everything else aside, I generally like my hands below my visual. So it's kind of an interesting thought is if what if this would have came out that way. Got one in from Mike James. So Mike James just kind of says, what the heck? And this is a link to readretro.com, which is the official website of Retro Magazine, the magazine, the much maligned video game magazine, which I was the co-founder of, and
the co-recreator.
And let's see, it looks like you can now pay $5 to submit a news release to them for a regular submission. $75 if you want a guaranteed submission. You could do $150 for social plus guaranteed, or you can get the premium submission that goes to all of their user base for $250. My understanding is that Retro
on
Magazine,
a scale of none to 0, how many will they sell?
you know, oh God, when did I do that? I want to say it was 2013. So the user list they have is so effing old at this point. I mean, it's almost 10 years old. And Ely, when he took it over, I mean, Mike had run it into the ground by the time I was leaving, and he went straight into the ground like a dart after I left, and then it kind of got passed around like a cheap something, and Ely had it, did nothing with it, and now it's been sold as part of Pico selling off some things to JK Games, or one of these retro stores owns it now, and I think they have some
Wait, so
partnership.
somebody actually bought this thing again?
Yeah. Hold on, let me see. I can tell you.
Look, man, I gotta tell you, I don't see how that's even fucking possible. I mean,
I know.
it was
I
such
know.
a steaming pile. It was DOA. I mean, at one point it was doing issues. I mean, you were there. You helped co-recreate it after it was stolen yet again. They did fucking issues, man. Like, well, you did it. I mean, I got them in the mail. I mean, it was a real thing. It had some success. And here we are now with one of the most befuddling things out of the whole Chameleon debacle was Ely giving money to Mike Kennedy. One, I will not mince about. It pissed me off personally because Kennedy would have taken the worst thing that could have happened, in my opinion, was Kennedy profiting from his schemes. That if he had not been given money by Ely, the punch would have been much harder landing in the price that he paid for his shenanigans. And no, here comes Ely and gives Kennedy money. So me and Ely ain't buddies. That right there is the end of that. I mean, you give money to Kennedy to, lessen the impact of his shenanigans. That's a deal breaker. We're not friends. But
Well,
the when so the even set aside personally pissing me off, the logic of buying a destroyed product that has no future, that has alienated both the producers and the consumers, escapes me.
yeah. Well, the funny thing is, this was work that I did as part of ownership, and was not including my design files, and I've had several people request those design files, which are my property, as this thing's been passed around over the years. So, I hope that it
Who
looks like
always reached
Dan
out to you?
Lucent.
Because I know that at one point, Kennedy threatened you with various things. Trying to remember the details. Like your basically your payout and all, saying give me your internal tools, and you were like fuck off. But
Yeah,
did
I mean,
others ask you for that?
It was very clearly outlined that I was the sole rights copy holder on the intellectual property for the design files, and he knew such, so there was nothing for him to pursue. It was very clearly outlined. He could have went and spent $30,000 for nothing. He knew better. Not that I think that he had it, but whatever. I wish good luck to the Goat Store and Dan Lucen, who I believe is the new owner of this. If you want to check
No,
out, yeah, yeah,
Dan Lucen of the Goat
yeah.
Store, who has been around forever, and I've never considered to be a stupid individual who sold a lot of quality. I mean, this guy's he's been around forever. He gave money to Ely
What? Well,
for
I think
the
my
corpse of
understanding is this
retro.
was a package. This was a package deal of JJ Games that Ely owned. Sold it to the owner of Midwest Gaming Classic, the Goat Store, Dan Lucen, right? And part of that included Retro Magazine, the digital back issues. If I don't know if Ely had any physical stock or what. So somehow Dan Lucen is now the owner of it. I don't know if he's running this site for this news submission, or this is just something weird left over. But I mean,
I hope it's something weird left over, because let's face it, man. Does that or does that not sound like? I mean, okay. You've seen the movie Heavy Metal, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
All right, so you know the basic premise of this evil thing called the Lochnar that corrupts everything it touches and turns it evil, right? The
Yeah, yeah.
fucking retro magazine has become the Lochnar. Like literally, Ely fucking it's like, he's like that little guy, the little janitor rolling around the Lochnar when it was a marble. He's like, a magazine. I have
Nah,
my own magazine.
I
I
think
can
that
publish. I can get $75 and defraud the public.
I imagine it went like this. I'm gonna sell you, I'm just gonna make a hypothetical number up. JJ Games for $100. Dan's probably like, I give you 75, and then Ely's like, I'll throw in all this other shit, and we got a deal at $85. You know what I mean? Like, I imagine it was something like that that went down. I have no idea. Like, it's all pure speculation, but I
Sure, and
imagine he
that
was just like,
probably
yeah, this is
is.
this is worthless, but I can maybe squeeze a little bit more, because I overpaid Kennedy for it. So whatever. I hope, I would hope that eventually one day somebody's able to do something decent with it. If you're looking for a classic retro magazine to get in your mailbox,
Start your
that's
own because
probably
this fucking thing's dead.
yeah, start your own or check out Old School Gamer. Those guys are doing something half decent. So all right, on to the next one.
All right, so I got one here from Dave Lanke, and there is
Lazy
apparently
Dave.
yeah. Um. So basically, they're gonna do a giant mud about Discworld. So it says here, all right, we continue Pratchett's efforts, the gamers keeping Discworld alive. A text-based multiplayer role-playing game based on the worlds of Terry Pratchett. So Discworld, it was this long-running fantasy series that you had, I read, I think, a few back in the day. It was a huge thing. Um I'm not an expert on it, but I remember, it ended up being a pretty successful series. I mean, I remember Eric Idle got behind it, and there are various games that came out of it, right? But this mud has been around. It said the mud has been in consistent service for over 30 years.
Damn.
So yeah, so that is quite. I remember when muds were first like kind of a thing, And I thought, well, that's cool. But yeah, huge article here. It's pages and pages and pages long. Um, but yeah, I love, the old projects like that coming back to life or staying alive. I have over the years kind of come and gone from BBSing when there were different ways to kind of redo it. I remember, having that little that jump application to, connect the Commodore to your PC to connect to the internet and all. But now it's just so straightforward. You're able to get back to BBSing. I'm really enjoying that again more. So I'm glad to see this happening.
All right. Next one comes to us from our one of our news feeds, and this is Shenmue's animated series has been canceled. So Shenmue, the animation, which was debuted last February, has now been canceled. Womp womp. It was based on the cult classic Sega game. They announced it in September of 20, and it came out this past February. They were supposedly making a second season that was going to be on Adult Swim and Crunchyroll, but it was part of the wide purge by Warner Discovery merger, so it will not be out there. Shenmue is always one of those weird ones. Like it seems like the critics love it, and it has this like hardcore cult classic. I really don't know anyone other than Random Dave that plays Shenmue. I tried getting into a couple of them. They seem cool. I had a couple buddies in college on one of the ones on the Dreamcast that was like pretty dope, but it just never seemed like something I was going to go pick up.
Well, it seems
You
to
know,
be a polarizing game that few have played.
yeah,
It's something that everybody seems to have a very absolutist opinion on, but if you drill down and ask the next question and they are honest in their response, you'll find out that neither party has ever played it. I remember
Yeah.
I remember bringing it up one time. So I was like, oh no, not Shenmue. It's like, well, look, have you played it? Guaranteed not. I personally really like Shenmue. I mean, look, I'm not saying I've played the piss out of it. I've played through it. It's cool. It's hard to relate to, it's particularly, for Westerners because it is so like Kojira games are very Kojira, but they're not, and they're Japanese, but yet it's somehow accessible. This takes it next level where unless you just kind of already are deeply involved in that sort of presentation, like that's normal to you, it's hard to really relate to. I will say that that's true. But when you're sitting there looking at what they pulled off on the Dreamcast hardware, you're like, you're looking under the Dreamcast for the Raspberry Pi hiding. I mean, it's amazing what they did with that. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for it. When I saw that, it was coming out as a show, I took a look at that. It was not really something I would watch. I mean,
Yeah.
even though I like
have
technologically, I like it.
I do have HBO Max, and ever since the merger and it's turned into Warner Discovery and stuff, now there's like all these like crappy TV shows and shit that are like cluttering the app, and I'm like, the hell is all this? Like they did have a pretty robust anime thing going on. Not that that's like necessarily my jam, but now there's like all these goofy shows from like I don't know, the Learning Channel or something that's like in there, and I'm like, oh god, like it's just one of those things that continue to seem to screw up. But I know that they've been axing some of the stuff that was like HBO Max, so that's one of them. Um, Talking about just quick side note, something I'm definitely not impressed with. That would be Microsoft code optimization because I was looking, I've had to move computers. I'm on a loaner right now, and waiting for the new Apple M2 chip to kind of drop so I can get one of those for my next personal computer. But I was looking at some of the Microsoft applications, and I was like, "Holy fuck!" Um, they're over 3 GB programs for like Excel or like Microsoft Word, and I'm just thinking, "God damn! Like this is bigger than GTA 3."
How
Like,
do you need 3 GB for a text editor?
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like the
I mean,
Shenmue on the Dreamcast, which was, like you said, an impressive feat of what they pulled off. Goddamn Microsoft Text Editor Word is a larger program. I mean, even Adobe, which has bloated ass programs like, After Effects that you can do crazy shit in 3D, that's a smaller program than Microsoft Word. So, somebody please write in and explain away why Microsoft Word is so friggin' big on a Mac. It's absolutely asinine. I don't know. All right, moving on.
well, it's funny because it's not just that it's that big on a Mac; it's that big on everything. And I haven't even gone and looked at the size of the um, the Open Office, LibreOffice that I use on Linux, but I guarantee it's nowhere near that damn big. Um, got this from Dave Lanky. He said, nobody saw this coming. Well, let's see. And Dave says here, well, I didn't see refunds coming. So, oh, it's another Google Stadia. Okay. So Google is shutting down Stadia. All right. And like a number of people have submitted this. Let me go through real quick and give some credit. Dave Lanky, Charlie, yourself, Peter Gibbs.
Yeah,
It seems to
we
be
got like,
quite.
yeah, like 5 submissions. Everyone's saying, "Oh shit."
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
because
it's
last
it's.
month we talked about, wait, it's not dead yet. It's actually still a thing.
I like it says it's not dead. Spoke too soon. Like literally, people are sending the emails in real time. Um, I just didn't care. It was a very silly thing for me. First of all, no Google. They they are a utterly they're a surveillance organization first. They don't give you a fucking free file folder to hold 3 gig on the internet because they love you and want you to be happy and healthy. They mean you no good. They are a very censorious organization. They are utterly political. I mean, the stats have been run, the numbers have been run. They showed, okay, like 90% of conservative, political emails end up in the spam bin. The others sail through. All right, once is an accident, twice is friendly fire, 3 times is enemy action. So, I don't care if it was the other way, if it was literally the other way, and 95% of leftist solicitations were ending up in the trash bin. I would say, well, hold on now. I mean, and you're an email provider. You're supposed to get email from point A to point B, not monkey with it in the middle and not try and, modify its impact. I have a problem with that no matter which way it goes, because then you're an advocacy company. So the disappointing thing to me is that's so obvious, yet so many people are like, love me some Google, free Gmail. It's fucking befuddling to me. I don't even understand it. So as soon as Google is involved with something, I'm out. That's just the hard and fast entry point. But even just setting that aside, let's say this had been done by, Sony or God, Sega, whoever. Okay, games that you don't own, that aren't in your possession, that you don't have the code for, they're revocable any minute. Pass. I don't care how neat the gadget is. Sorry. So this is it's gone. Whatever. Don't care for me. Never was going to use it anyway.
Yeah. Something else you might not ever be using is Beyond Good and Evil 2, because now it is the most delayed game ever. What? So it's actually officially beat out the delayed Duke Nukem Forever, which, was originally unveiled in 97, then launched in 2011. God, that's like almost a retro game at this point. But yeah, Ubisoft's Beyond Good and Evil 2, which was first released in 2008, has now blown past that, and there's no sign of it ever coming out. So it now takes the cake as being the most delayed game ever, I guess. I guess because they've never officially canceled it. Beyond Good and Evil was a good game. It's weird, maybe that I think Ubisoft has kind of moved on to a bit more of that annual release model where they're doing a lot of the Valhalla, or not, the Assassin's Creed games and things like that. Those have done particularly well for them. I enjoyed the Valhalla one that came out. God, it's almost 2 years now, so I guess they'll should be having a new one coming out soon. But yeah, Beyond Good and Evil. If it came out, I would probably play it because I did enjoy the first one, but something I hadn't thought about in a while.
Yeah, I wasn't on my radar. Didn't really make an impression, but that it's been jerked around that long, which, like kind of like the Duke Nukem one, assets are worked on. Are they not being worked on? At, some point, those assets have to have a lifespan. I mean, if you draw something and render it in 2010 and you go back in 2020, is that draw? Mark, you would know this much more, in detail than I would. It would seem to me like, let's say you draw an asset in 2010 and you did it this resolution, this many colors, and this stylization, whatever. There's at some point that asset expires in terms of being usable in a video game, unless you're literally saying we're doing a game styled in 2010. At some point, it's not up to being used, right? I mean, how fast does that point come? It seems to me that point would be coming faster and faster every generation, right?
Um, I wouldn't say it's like completely unusable. Yeah, maybe some of the assets, depending
Would
on
you have
what
to go in and
engine.
redraw it, or can you upscale, or how does that work? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean they could maybe use some of the base model depending on what the engine was and stuff like that. I mean, there would be some things that they could take over, but yeah, like some of the texture maps and I mean everything's, exponentially gotten better in the time. I think it would probably be more of that the story, the mapping, sort of the enemies and everything. I mean, there would be some inherent value for some of the groundwork they had laid. I mean, they may have to start completely over in a new engine or whatever they're using, but um, I wouldn't say they're starting from zero though. Just because like a new engine comes out or something like that, or it's a new system. So anyway, got one in from Dave, and this was Stadia's exhibit of history gaming blunders is now up on eBay, and it sold for $2,050. Um, Google's Dream joins the likes of Atari's ET and Sega Dreamcast. So let's see. Um, Outside of the 2019 GDC, before anybody heard Google Stadia, there was people outlining the history of gaming. They were showing the different major flops such as ET, the Power Glove, the Dreamcast, and the fourth pedestal was empty except for a card saying "coming soon." Um, and now Google Stadia is the thing that's in there. This is written by Frank Cifaldi, who tweeted that now you can get this actual display that was, at the GDC and ended up selling for $2,050, and the proceeds went to the Video Game History Foundation, which is a cool thing that you should definitely support.
I will. I know Frank didn't intend to try and sort of become the face of it, but it was just so funny. Some of those tweets that uh where he was pontificating on the chameleon and oh my god, that was some funny shit. Um Maybe we should steer clear of that one. Got one here from Spinal Cord. Here is a Hackaday article about a DIY computer based on a teensy. So it is a really cool article. They take this, little tiny SBC, and it's decent specs. I mean, 800 megahertz M7 processor, mega RAM, 8 mega flash, but USB access for storage or Bluetooth or whatever. Uh, it can do VGA out serial. And a guy built a little computer. It's on like I don't know, maybe a 6-inch by 6-inch PCB. It's got a little keyboard, and then it's connected up to up to a monitor. And it, sure enough, it boots up, loads an OS, and it is a computer. And it has enough horsepower in there because of the CPU and the memory and all that, where it can do emulation and play C64 or whatnot. It's a cool kit. I mean, they've got the little the PCB and then all the components. So that's pretty cool. There's a million other ways to do all the things that it's doing, but it looks like a great educational project if someone wants to take something like that
on. Pretty cool. This one sent in from David Gyrich. The NES gets its own OS. What? So, this article, they talk about how, basically these older game systems, as you know, in the cartridge era, they just simply ran directly off the hardware, didn't require an operating system for the functionality of the consoles. I even watched a video recently where they were popping in like Mario Soccer and Super Mario Brothers and holding reset and doing some weird swap shit, and like somehow because the code that was still running on the machine, it would create these weird levels on Mario. I don't know. Anyway,
on.
um, there is a new OS that has been created, um, and basically for the NES, and now you can run it with support of Japanese keyboard accessory. Let's see, it's limited to 832 bytes. Let's see what else. Basically, what it does is it manages the low level functions of the computer. So it allows for scheduling of tasks, interactions between the user, the programs, the hardware, making the memory scheduling for long running tasks like swapping background, foreground processes. So it says here you can get it for free, and they recommend installing Linux uh, instead of the NES Classic instead. So I don't know if you guys are a little bit of a hacker, want to mess around with some operating systems and stuff. You can do one for the NES now.
Yeah, this is really kind of a neat idea. Now, there are some blurred lines here. It's not absolutely black and white, but sort of the traditional way of doing, well, let's say vintage consoles, you wouldn't necessarily have an OS, right? Because an OS, its function is to add everything you just described, right? And then the application software runs on the OS level, and the OS is taking care of a lot of management. The Nintendo and most other retro consoles did not have a BIOS. So that was one of the things like the Atari 2600. You can build an Atari 2600 from all these components, and there's nothing to copyright because it doesn't have a BIOS. It doesn't have an OS. And that means each game has to individually handle all these things, right? So you have to sort of reinvent the wheel. Now, the efficiency is there's no OS. The game directly manages all these things. So there's no wasted memory. There's no wasted processing power because it's literally running. The game incorporates its own OS, if you will. It's a sloppy description, but it's there. There is a great 11-minute video out there called Creating an Operating System for the NES, where the author goes into the hardware limitations, the abilities, because this thing was never designed to have an OS. So it's not like you install this thing and suddenly you're running the equivalent of Geos and you can run applications, everything else. It's a little more complicated than that. But you remember back in the old days with DOS, you load DOS after you got done with the drivers or sound or whatever, and you had to struggle to free up enough lower memory to run many games. And it was a struggle because, the games were getting more and more, I need 610K. I need this. And once you loaded DOS, the driver, whatever. So I remember, building auto execute bat files. It come up like, do you want mouse support? Yes or no? Because if you didn't load the mouse driver, that freed up an extra 2 kilobytes of memory. And that was critical for that. Anyway, it wouldn't enable the SNES the NES to do anything it couldn't already do. It's just a novelty, but it's a cool novelty.
All right.
Got one here from Spinal Cord, and it's a cool little device here. I'm trying to bring up the freaking. There we go. So anyway, Spinal submits this. It says, check this out. You can get a little doodad for your PC to emulate the auto experience of owning an older hard drive. If you're unlucky enough to have a fast, modern solid state drive in your in your system. So for 25 pounds, you get this little thing called the hard drive clicker. And it's got a power connector, the little Molex power connector. And then what it does is it connects to the LED output on your motherboard that shows the drive activity. And looks like a little amplifier here. And so the LED comes in, the LED goes out. It's a pass through. It's got the Molex connector for power. And then all it does is it clicks this speaker as the LED, basically it clicks a speaker as the LED flashes to emulate the sound of a mechanical hard drive. So, I always kind of like the sound of the old MFM and ROL drives, like the Seagate ST225 and all. It had sort of this chirping little musical sound. Always thought that sound was pretty cool. It is kind of neat now. PCs are just essentially almost silent. There's no the mechanical sound of that 3.5-inch floppy buzzing away, and all that's gone. And I like those sounds. That's why I like retro computers. But I don't think I would buy a device just to make a hard drive clicking sound. It's like the electric cars that have a little speaker to make this motor sound, or whatever. It just kind of seems silly.
Hmm. Got another one in from David Gyrich, and this is the eagerly awaited SNK versus Capcom update for the C64. So, looks like they're continuing on to make SNK versus Capcom for the C64. There's actually a demo you can get now, which is pretty dope. These guys have been working away at this, and they're using their Retro Fighter game engine. It's impressive, man, what they've been able to pull off here. So there's still no music to it. They got a couple sound effects in there. There's a video. You can go ahead and download the CRT file, the source file, the manual. Get your hands on this and start playing away a little bit. They got 3 new fighters in this new update. There's some new rounds. There's a tourney mode. It This is something I think Simon would really enjoy. The fact that they were able to faithfully recreate these characters with what I would consider very nice representative pixel art um, for the system. I mean, it's an interpretation, and it's definitely a stylized look at this game, but it's still faithful to the original. Just kind of incredible what they're able to pull off here. Again, game isn't quite finished yet, but if you are a fan of C64, looking to try something else on your C64, this looks like a fun one. I'll say it does look like it's a little bit slow, so go into that with realistic expectations. You're not going to be flying around the screen like you would on the real McCoy, but cool project for sure.
Yeah, I love the platform too. I mean, what a neat. I mean, the C64 a great choice for that. I think only it would have really had that color warmth and that presentation to make it work. So, got another neat interpretation of games here. David Gyrich sent this in on the heels of Doom, Half-Life coming soon. Great. So, Quake has been converted to a ray traced. And sort of their own description here is developed by the award-winning ID Software. Quake is the groundbreaking original dark fantasy first-person shooter that inspires today's FPS games, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Enjoy the original, authentic version of Quake, now with up to 4K and widescreen resolution support, enhanced models, dynamic and colored lighting, anti-aliasing, depth of field, the original atmospheric soundtrack, and theme song by Trent Reznor, and more. So it looks stunning. I mean, you're running around this thing, and the brilliance of the colors, the depth, and everything else, just looks impressive. I don't know that I'll get to play this. I don't know if it's available on Linux. I'm just saving this to the side to look at it later. But it looks absolutely stunning.
Yeah. Now you can play it ray traced. Okay, so another one that was submitted to us, that Nintendo, their new animation studios, is now going to be officially called Nintendo Pictures. What took you so long, Nintendo? Come on. So it looks like formerly it was known as Dynamo Pictures, and they had done some of the mocap stuff and animation work on Pikmin, some other short films like Final Fantasy 13-2, Monster Hunter, Other M, and now Nintendo acquired the studio back in July, and then they've been doing some business stuff. So now it's officially Nintendo Pictures. So kind of what took you so long is what I'm thinking, right? I mean, They got the new, the new teaser trailer for the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's starring Chris Pratt. Um, that will be, coming out soon, and it's like Nintendo is just always a little bit slow, guys. I mean, they're just kind of historically, culturally Japanese, right? Like they don't take too many big risks. They usually go for the sure thing. After the wave of all the Disney madness over the last several years with Marvel and Star Wars, and there's going to be a new Indiana Jones, and how popular Nintendo properties are. You've even seen multiple Sega Sonic movies at this point. There's been, I don't know how many video games movies up to date. Admittedly, most of them not that great. I did watch Uncharted. I think on a plane ride back from California or something. I thought it was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, people keep optioning all these video game IPs for movies, and you're just like, Nintendo, what the heck? What took you so long? Like, they could put out a smoldering turd of a movie, and Nintendo fans are going to show up for it. I mean, I don't know.
I wonder if
So
that's what they plan to do. Are they
yeah,
going to release some quality, or are they going to release overpriced crap? And it is so in the Nintendo style of late to go, well, we're going to release a movie about Mario Brothers, but we're not going to include Mario. We're just going to focus on Luigi. I mean, I don't know how they can. It's amazing. They're
I mean, they could make Legend of Zelda movies that would just print money.
Dude,
Print.
Legend of Zelda done right would be. I mean, I'm talking like during its heyday, Lord of the Rings stuff.
Oh,
I mean,
it would be tentpole, like, multiple in the series. I mean, God, it would just make so money if done right. Even if done wrong, it would just make so much money. Could you imagine a retro, or like a really good Metroid movie series that was made like a la Aliens, or like the Prometheus, or any of that stuff? Like how good that would be if it was, more of like a PG
oh yeah, okay, yeah.
13 light
You
R.
make a great example. Okay, Prometheus, the scene where that first human spacecraft that can do those kind of distances, comes sweeping into the planet, and of course now they haven't been sending probes here. They didn't first have satellites arrive and start mapping the planet. They just show up and go, oh look, there's a straight line. Let's land there. But it just happened to be under where they entered. But silliness aside, the visuals of it. Can you imagine like Samus coming flying in a ship like that, and not fantasy hardware, but stuff done as if it were real stuff. I mean believable worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be killer. But I think the real money would be that Zelda thing. If you had a Zelda with the budget and the care of something like Lord of the Rings, like I said, the original movies runs. What a piece of work that could be. I don't know about Nintendo sometimes. They did the NES. They had the SNES. They lost their way. They come back with the Wii. And the Wii was everything that the SNES days was, the NES days was. They literally recreated lightning in a bottle. And then somehow lost that formula and came out with the Wii U and went south after.
Yeah, but the Switch is popular, man. I mean, it's not
popular, but it ain't the Wii, man.
It's not for us, but yeah, it's not the Wii. But it's damn popular. I mean,
but see, the Wii was for us and everybody else. And that's the thing about the Wii. The way that the Wii recreated lightning in a bottle was just like the Nintendo. Its hardware made sense. It was an attractive design, and it gave something for everybody that brought massive participation from multiple segments in, and didn't exclude other segments because they supported one. So, I mean, there were people that bought Nintendos just to play Tecmo Bowl that were self-described sports fanatics that hated video games, and they were buying Nintendos to play Tecmo Bowl. I'm telling you, man, it can be done. Nintendo proved it could be done twice. The Switch, I think, could have been very different. I have one, but I also have like a handful, literally a palm full of games for it because there's nothing coming out I care about.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel the same way. The Switch was, I mean, we got it day one launch. I don't know, we maybe have a dozen or so games for it. And I got littler kids, but yeah, I mean, we had a lot of fun with the games that we played, but yeah, there's just not, the Mario's really good, the Smash Brothers, I mean, honestly, if I had paid the 250 or whatever it was just to play the Zelda game, might have been worth it because that's how damn good that game is.
It was great back in the day. The Switch, if not for the chip shortage and the economy, a lot of things that are happening, that thing would be into life now and would be looking at the next gen, and they still don't have a next Legend of Zelda. But I tell you what they do have, thanks to
Oh, it's
submission by
coming out
Mike
soon.
James, is next year. It's been years. Um, Bruce Lee, Return of Fury, a continuation of the classic 80s game, has been released for the Atari XL and XE. So basically, for the 1984 Datasoft game, Bruce Lee, which Mike James is a huge fan of, is now been coded for the Atari computer and is out. So that's pretty cool. That just, that somebody takes the time to go back and build another game in a franchise on original hardware. Love it.
Well, looks like 1942, the classic arcade shooter, arrives on the 7800, and it's good. So, oh god, I played so much 1942, 1943. I love those games. I have it on my phone, actually. Play that, but looks like Playsoft has released the arcade game 1942 for the 7800. Crazy. And it's pretty good. So let's see what makes this release rather special for the 7800 with the required Dragonfly is not only one of the best versions they've played so far, but it's a very accurate representation of the 8-bit version. There's tons of enemies, no sprite flickers. The Yamaha music is very close to the arcade originals, so you can actually download this at the link to the show news. So check that out. Big
Well,
fan. Were you a
without a
big?
doubt, it shows it's a visually beautiful game, very smooth. It just works on the hardware. It further demonstrates that the 7800 could have been absolutely market competitive with the NES and the ColecoVision. It was a solid console. They didn't make games like this for it then. That was the whole problem. And it sat in a warehouse for like 3 years after it was done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Other than Popeye, I don't know that there's much to play on the 7800.
Well, that was the whole problem, wasn't it? Is the the
Winter
7800
games.
came out and it's like, oh, hey, the 7800. And it's like, yeah, these are just the same titles with a slight tweak. And that was the problem is the but I remember like when the 5200 came along, it's like, great, these are the same games like we had on the 2600. I already played them. Then the 7800 comes along. It's like, look, 2 generations of systems later, and it's still the same games. And because at that point, like Pac-Man and Defender and whatnot were not retro games. They were just old games. And we were playing the next games. And we didn't want to play the same old games we had just played. So kind of sad. There is a trailer out here for the Super Mario Brothers movie. And,
Yeah, have you watched it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. It's the stylization of it is kind of curious. boy, man, I don't know. It's kind of like remember when Sonic came out and everybody laughed and Sega went, hold on, we're going to take a step back. I don't think it's at that phase at all. I don't think it needs to be taken apart. It's just curious to me that it's done in almost the N64 style and the later, like the Wii and the DS and all that, and they didn't start off with like an NES style. That to me would have been, I think, what I would have expected to start an NES style, but they didn't. So interesting. I'll
I,
watch it,
I
of course.
yeah, I mean, when I saw it, and you see the big Bowser ship rolling in, and then the little battle, and then when it cuts to Mario later in the Mushroom Kingdom and stuff, and he meets Toad, and I mean, you know, I didn't really want to watch it because I generally try not to watch trailers for movies that I know I'm gonna go see. So, unfortunately, I did have to watch this just for the show, but I will not watch. Usually they do like your initial trailer drop, and then they'll do trailer one, trailer two, that kind of thing. I'll refuse to watch anymore because it seems like sometimes they ruin the best surprises of the movies. You get a little bit of like Luigi and the Haunted Mansion kind of area in the trailer as well, and I just don't want to ruin the movie. Like I just want to sit back and enjoy it. But I thought the visuals were friggin' stunning. And if I eventually, which I know I will, get to play a Mario game with that level of fidelity, can't friggin' wait. I mean, this is absolutely gorgeous. I have, unless
It's what
there's
Mario could look like on the Nintendo
on a Steam
next gen
Deck.
system.
Yeah, like you could probably do that now on a Steam Deck or some powerful PC. It'll be 3-4 generations till we get there on Nintendo hardware, but oh man, it just is so rich with style. I mean, I think they friggin' nailed it. I mean, this is gorgeous. I don't know what to say. I mean, this thing easily is gonna be a top 5 movie of the year whenever it releases. I think kids are just gonna flock to see it. I think it's gonna be the thing to see. It's gonna do wonders for Nintendo. It's just I don't know. You wonder what, like I said earlier, you wonder why they waited so long. So anyway, I
Well,
think
there was the live action movie with Bob
yeah,
Hoskins and Leguizamo, which got panned. I thought it was pretty good. It was what it was supposed to be. It was a freaking video game in real life. You know, it I
it was
thought
weird.
I thought it was pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah, but this is like what they should be doing. So
Oh, it's what you can do today. And yes, they should be doing it. Although, man, I can't put my finger on it. And this is your pool that you swim in. I know you get how that stuff is done, but there's just something about it that seems a little, it's not dead on. It's a little to the side. So granted, it's a trailer. There's so much more work to be done, finishing and editing and whatnot. I get it. We'll see how it lands. It looks promising. It does.
the only the only thing that I would say is that I hope they really focus on their core. I would like we talked about earlier. Would love to see the Metroid movie, if done, a little bit more PG-13, light R rating, which they probably would never do. But at
Nope.
least at least a solid PG-13, because they don't have to show blood, but they can show like guts of aliens and stuff with PG-13. There's been some pretty hard PG-13, so I think they could do that right. I think that they certainly Legend of Zelda, epic style, a la Lord of the Rings would be fantastic. Um, I just wonder if when they start getting a taste for how much of this is actually going to be profitable for them, like do you end up where Disney just they overdid Marvel. They just like, although the Werewolf by Night that they released pretty recently for October was good, you start getting into these B characters and C list and D list, and you're like, why the hell are they making like all this, She Hulk and stuff, which wasn't that great. I would hope we don't get to a part where, Nintendo starts going crazy, and then 10 years from now they're pumping out like Ice Climbers Part 3 or something. And you're like, who the hell's asking for that? You know what I mean? Just make sure they temper it and don't go too crazy. But this does look good, so excited to see that one.
And
And
hopefully
let's
they
see.
steer. Hopefully they steer clear of the current mandates of inserting all sorts of unrelated political agendas and social agendas into the movie. I don't want to see any of that crap, and I'm not going to watch it. But hopefully they don't. They just let Mario be Mario.
And it looks like new Garbage Pail game Kids game is announced for the NES, new consoles, and PC. So this is let's see, Garbage Pail Kids, Mad Mike and the Quest for Stale Gum, which is a new game coming out on the NES in Q1 2023. And it's also going to be releasing on the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC October 25th. Um, Kind of weird that they put PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in there, and not. I guess maybe PlayStation 4 games also play on PS5. So,
Yeah, it does.
um,
That's all
yeah.
I can think
So,
of.
let's see. Looks like they're taking pre-orders. There will be, um, at least it looks like you can get an actual hard copy of this game. Let's see if I can pre-order it because it looks like, yeah, it's physical cartridge, shipping Q1. Let's see, it's $80, but you know what? They look pretty good. Looks like there's a pink version and a blue version. So if you're a physical collector, um, this looks pretty good. The trailer looks I don't think the trailer is of the NES version though. It looks like it's probably one of the newer ones. Um, have you bought any games recently for newer releases on physical hardware?
Uh, sort of, but not new games. Like for example, I got into the Borderlands series, right? So I went out and bought all the 1, 2, 3 pre-sequel, all that. Um, but no, there's not been anything. I mean, I've talked about this, for a while now. It's just a desert out there. There's just nothing coming out. I mean, the PS5 is out. There's no real games. So basically, I've got every major platform, right? I'm looking at them right now. I got all the new systems, and I'm playing freaking Borderlands, from 8 years ago because that's the best thing available right now. Um, you know, there's no new Mario, there's no new Zelda, there's no Titanfall 4, there's nothing. So, uh, and the things that are coming out are just utterly uninteresting. So, no, I haven't.
All right.
But here's a cool piece of software that is coming out. Um, if you remember the old SSI games, Heroes of the Lance, all the great D&D, mainly the Dragonlance world, Pools of Radiance, all that. They had ports to the C64 and they had ports to the PC and other platforms. I played many of those SSI D&D games on the Commodore 64, and there was just because of the limitations of the C64 and the programming, I guess, style at the time and the tools available, there was a lot of black space. Like they only drew certain parts of the screen because they just couldn't do it all. And I'm not a programmer. Things have gotten better for them, I guess. New things have been imagined. I don't know. I can't speak to that, but the some of the reimagined releases where they go back and maybe a more talented programmer with newer tools does some really cool stuff on a vintage system. Well, they did Eye of the Beholder on the Commodore 64. And it's pretty much, it's definitely a C64 style. And you can tell it, excuse me, I caught it what James has. And it's definitely, it is not the PC version, but it's a darn good, credible port that I will absolutely play. So very well done. Very, very nicely done. Information in our show links and a link to the YouTube video where you can see just what a great job they did.
Yeah, I know that Electronic Arts is going to be re-releasing Dead Space. I think that comes out in January. So that will be coming on new consoles, and they've sort of reimagined Dead Space, and I guess it's more of a relaunch of the original. But I guess I mean, Dead Space is probably, getting on the verge of being a retro game at this point. I can't remember if that was PS2, but they'll be remaking that. And in other news, let's see, from Mr. James, he sent in that something about the Northwest Computer Museum. I think he mentioned that sort of right before he hopped off, that they're going to be opening that new computer museum right up the street from him.
Got one here from Spinal Cord,
loading up their
and
website, and
a
it
guy has
looks-
used a CRT from a logic analyzer as a monitor. Okay, well, I mean, this isn't exactly that surprising. Vintage test equipment that had CRTs in it. They're going to use some sort of standard. In this case, it was a Sony CHM 9001. So, it's a nice VGA monitor, and he just basically found the connection points for the VGA signal and connected it, and yeah, that's gonna work. So, not the most groundbreaking thing, but pretty cool.
All right. Just when you thought there was nothing else for Doom to possibly run on, Carl sent us in this one that someone got Doom running on Notepad at 60 frames per second. Why climb a mountain? Because it's there. So, I think Doom's been running on calculators, refrigerators, pregnancy tests, like whatever. And now a new YouTuber, Samperson, Sam Cheat, demonstrated he got Doom to run on a Notepad. It's somehow using ASCII graphics to kind of get the game running. So this is, I don't know, it's crazy. You can do it yourself. So you can download his files. So if you need Doom to run on yet another device, go ahead and check this one out. At least check out the video and the show note link, because it's pretty wild.
Also pretty wild, a neat piece of history that I'm surprised. From Peter Gibbs here, probably still the best simulator of my youth. I have no idea why I bought it on SNES, though. As regarding SimCity. Now, I play SimCity on a pretty interesting platform. My laptop of traveling when I was getting deployed to the Middle East in the military was my Tandy 1110 HD. It's basically a PCXT Turbo with an NEC V20 processor, 640K RAM, 20 megabyte hard drive, and 720K floppy. So pretty much a pimped out PCXT, but just a PCXT. There's still just tons of DOS software that was still being made. It was still floating around. And I loaded SimCity on it, which I thought worked very well on the LCD screen. It had a non-backlit LCD screen, green. And I enjoyed playing SimCity. I thought it ran very well on that hardware. In fact, that's one of the games that on my new PCXG Turbo rig, I'll be definitely playing some SimCity. So anyway, over at Rock, Paper, Shotgun, they have an article here that Windows 95 had special code just to fix a bug in the original SimCity. So when you're running Microsoft Windows 95, it would look at a launch of SimCity and go, okay, well then let's change the memory mapping. So it would actually change the memory allocation so that SimCity wouldn't crash. So there is actual in the OS for Windows 95, there was some accommodations made to ensure one of the more popular games would run in Windows 95. So that's cool.
Let's see here. We got a good one in from Gareth Hamer, and this is a Project Stellar Plus. So it looks like blah, blah, blah. Project Stellar started in 2020 after the release of the Xbox HDMI. So this is a new add-on for the original Xbox. Um, let's see what all it does. Traditional mods to the Xbox have used the LPC port, but Project Stellar takes full advantage of the LPC interface. So on the board, let's see, it is more of the top of its class FPGA. So you can interface directly with the BIOS. Let's see. Basically, it's giving you additional RAM. Let's see, more CPU cache that will be available, and 2 ARM CPU cores that can be used for offloading all the tasks of the Xbox CPU. So if you are looking for a micro SD slot,
It's a
and
daughter CPU board, is what it is. It's brilliant. This is really
yeah,
cool.
I mean, it has FPGA, got USB C, which is nice. All kinds, really nice HD link for your Xbox. So yeah, you kind of bolt this thing on, and it looks like you can kind of hot rod your original Xbox. You know what? I have a
It
tricked
gives you
out.
hardware level access to everything. You can monitor and configure virtually every aspect of the system hardware. Um, you can update over network. You can do ISO loading while it's compressed, which means game loading speed and transfer speed is nuts. Um, at the kernel level, it has the screen display. So basically it runs under the Xbox and can manipulate and enhance many things. This is a big update. This is a big freaking deal. A lot of things like to bypass the DVD drive was very difficult. So what they did was they basically emulated the drive electronics, where you had to leave the drive electronics in and then emulate the transfer of the game further. This just eliminates that, and you just load code. You can change the RAM configurations. Just the video improvements alone are nuts. It lets you take control of the Xbox down to the lowest level, manipulate and observe. So very cool.
Let's see. Looks like it's out of stock on all the places I'm going because I'm looking for. Let's see, 4 interest payments of $35. So about looks like maybe $140 from CastlemaniaGames.com. I'm not sure if some of the other retailers have it, but it's out of stock, so you have to sign up for um, get notified whenever the next one's available. But yeah, I mean, I have an Xbox I need to dust off once I get the basement finished. I know that I haven't plugged it in probably 5 years. Maybe, yeah, probably about 5 years. I know that those CD, like the drives on them, are prone to kind of rot. So hopefully it still accepts physical media. But I had mine modded, and it has all kinds of emulators and stuff all over it. But this would be a fun project for sure. And I think for $140, it's not terrible.
So, we got a couple submissions here about those unreleased NESs. I think Mike mentioned it a little bit. We got the one that Mike sent in. We got Gareth Hamer, Peter Gibbs, others that submitted it. And it is neat because it shows you, like, apparently this company took this thing to CES. One of the games was a Power Glove game. The other one is a Napoleon themed strategy game. And what's so neat is the art assets. And Mark, this, probably more your thing than mine, but they actually have like, like when you print the manual, the box, there's all these, I guess, alignment marks for cutting or folding or whatever in production.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
all those,
registration marks.
yeah, all those marks are present. So like you can literally see you can see like the markings of in the manual and the box of where all this would happen. So just, I mean, you don't ever get to see, even has like the Nintendo seal of quality, all the stuff like this would have been in the box. And it's in a little plastic wrap and all that. Just freaking cool, man. I hope somebody, whoever buys this, I
Yeah,
hope the
I
first
mean,
thing they do is dump the ROMs.
yeah. The cool thing is, so they even have a Pantone swatch that's along with it. So they had identified the Pantone flood color along with the dye line. So, I mean, these are pretty rare. I just signed off on some film for consumer packaged good food product that I designed. Historically, they would send out maybe four proofs, but usually, um, what you would do is you would sign off on all four. You keep two, you send two back to the printer. So likely, there was only four of these things ever created. So it is quite rare. Um, the fact that they have the die line and everything for the box. I mean, that would just be badass to have. If you're a collector and you
So the
want to
die
have
line, you know
something.
what? Hey, Mark, take a second to explain that. What is a die line? And why is this article, this artifact, this thing important?
Yeah, so this is the printer proof. So they design the files for the box, goes back and forth through marketing department. They create the packaging, they send that to the printer. The printer will sometimes tweak a file to make sure that everything's good. Historically, probably back then, they ran this on some sort of Kodak printer that would be calibrated to work alongside whatever web press, a Heidelberg that they would have printed this thing on. So they would have made just a handful of these that are considered press proofs. And what those do is they ensure you get an accurate representation to the producer. In this case, whoever was creating the Napoleon battlefield, the battlefields of Napoleon game. So the print company would send this to them, to their department, to sign off and say, "This is the standard which we'll hold you by. This is our die line. This is what it will be produced on press." So you have to physically sign a set of copies, because if somebody screwed up in your department and gave us bad art, there's a spelling error, or you forgot something, want to change it later, tough shit. Like, everybody is accountable for signing off. What you see is what you're going to get, right? So these were expensive to make on Kodak machines because they had to run them on silver paper and things like that. So they would have produced only a handful of these things, send them to the company
Oh, when you say
for.
expensive to produce, if a ordinary color copy is $1 and something crazy is $5, is this $7 or 7,000? I mean, what's
um
expensive? Relatively speaking, I don't need exact dollar figure. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of relative, but I mean, it's highly specialized proof making printers, like that basically are calibrated to make sure. So the cost of the people and this expertise and the calibration and everything else. I mean, these probably would have been a couple $100 back in the 80s for these proofs to be made, printer proofs. I don't know what that would equate to in
Is this
today's
an
technology.
antiquated methodology or is
Yeah,
this
they
still?
don't do that anymore. Now it's all digital files, and they're much easily calibrated through different technologies and file types, and they're easier to calibrate for the paper substrate and everything else. And they generally make these on Epsons now. I mean, they're still high end proofs that are highly calibrated, but not as difficult to achieve like they were back in the 80s. So this would have been a very expensive thing, and like I said, they would have only produced maybe four, less than 10 of these to ensure that somebody had
They
a
didn't do
copy.
like a couple dozen for the C-suite and
No, no, no,
the
no, no.
other
Like,
uninvolved people.
no, this is like, a couple of these were made. They were um, probably locked up and saved in a company archive folder somewhere to say like, okay, here's the the press proof that we signed off on. So when you make the box, it better look like this, or somebody's going to be held accountable for it. So just a cool piece of sort of the printing history today. You know, they probably still do proofs. They're likely an Epson proof or something like that, digital. But some work would have went into making the plates and everything else that would have made this. So um, this would be a really cool storytelling piece to have on your wall. I've not seen proofs like this before for games. So you see original press pages for comic books and things like that have been saved. Sometimes you see some for advertisements, but this is sort of a an oddity and certainly a cool thing for a bit of storytelling if you had this mounted on a wall.
Cool. Got one here from Spinal Cord again. And it says somebody on Twitter seems to create a C64 cartridge with a Pi Zero on it. Yeah, and there's different types these out. This one he's saying, it has a C64 emulator on it, but it's plugged into C64, so it's using the C64's, inputs and keystrokes and all that, and then controlling the emulator that way. Sure, okay. There is a lot of neat stuff out now with the Pies. Unfortunately, they're in just brutally short supply right now, which sucks. But I did that project, a few weeks ago, using the CPLD, which is it's kind of like an FPGA. It's a high performance chip being controlled by a Pi. So it boots up, and what it does is it takes the input signal from CGA and converts it into pretty much pixel perfect HDMI output. So solid piece of hardware. I think it's going to evolve a lot. This is kind of not the early days, but there's still room for some improvement. Some of the images, stutter a little bit or have waves going through it. Not unusable by any means. So much better than any other method of converting it, through three different converters strung together. But it's definitely the way forward. But yeah, I mean, it's anything that keeps classic hardware out there in front of people is fine by me.
Looks like Peter sent this one in, and this was somebody posted some early Nintendo NES promotional materials, sort of a black box Legend of Zelda, one of their very early advertisements introducing the games from sports to a princess named Zelda that has, let's see, everybody on this one. Looks like there's 5 boxes, so it's the black version of all of these titles, but it's Legend of Zelda, Punch Out, volleyball, slalom, and pro wrestling. And you know, there there's also the crazy knitting machine. There's a promotion, magazine promotion for Now You're Knitting with Power. That's talking about how the Nintendo system you can get this add-on Nintendo knitting machine. Just one more example of the innovative thinking that keeps Nintendo on the cutting edge of video technology and your customers on the edge of their seats.
I think that's pretty cool. I mean, I have never knitted a single stitch in my life, but first of all, it looks complex. Like there's lots of little moving parts and things. I guess it works by setting certain elevations of the thread so different patterns appear or whatever. I don't know. I just looking at this, my guess. If though I would not pay a shit ton of money, but if that was kind of out there, I'd buy something like that.
Yeah. Um, I don't.
For the
I don't.
Nintendo. I mean, come on, designing like a Mario thing and then printing it out and then having somebody like put on a shirt, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, super meta. Um, let's see what else we got here. Go ahead. You got the next
Well,
one.
I got one here from David Gyrich, and it's a link to a YouTube video. Will be in our show notes as always. And it discusses the launch of the Sega CD. In fact, it's called The Story of the Sega CD Launch by Kay Huntington. And it talks about sort of the competitors at the time, what was on the market, and then what the Sega CD was, what it could do, and how they tried to sell it. And I think it's really, really cool. And I was a fan. I love the aesthetic of it. I like the hardware of what it brought to the console. I think, unfortunately, later this went way sideways high and to the right when they got the 32X and all those other weird add-ons, but pretty cool. So great video.
Yeah, did you have one when they first came out?
Which one? The Sega CD?
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I was in Germany at the time, and I had just gotten back from the Middle East, and I go into the store there. Well, first I saw it. One of the guys I worked with, he bought one, and he had Sewer Shark. That was one of the really cool titles that launched with it, and a couple others. And I just took one look at it and said, "Wow, I hadn't caught it in the magazines. I've been for 9 months. I've been down in a freaking in the desert, playing missile catch. So I hadn't seen that this was a thing, So I was stoked to see it. And then I went in a store and I saw it and took a look at it and just got one right away. I don't know whatever happens to that original. I do. I got to tell the story of that one day. There's somebody I want to throw under the bus pretty vigorously because it went with my original Sega Genesis. And anyway, I got one here right now. The first gen, the one that sits under the original gen of the Genesis. I think that one's just the most visually pleasing. The other one just looked a little goofy, the side by side. So,
Okay. So let's see, this next one is from David Gyrich, and this is a cool little documentary on YouTube. Let's see how long this thing is. It's about 11 minutes long, so little mini piece that focuses on the Sharp SF1. So they kind of talk about how when the Super Famicom first launched in Japan, it was sold out everywhere. People were accusing Nintendo of creating artificial demand.
a trick they would later learn.
Yeah, a trick that they seemingly do every time.
Hold my
But
sake and watch this.
yeah, so but I don't think this was released here, but they released the Sharp SF1 Super Famicom TV. So Super Famicom was like, I don't know what, like $200 or something, but you couldn't get one. But you could get the Sharp TV with the built-in Super Famicom for like $1,000. So they made this TV with like the weird Super Famicom kind of like bolted onto the top of it, and yeah, just a sort of a obscure piece of video game hardware history, short little documentary to watch. So check that one out.
Yeah, it is really cool. I mean, it's a TV with a freaking, a Sharp TV with a two Nintendo, Super Nintendo ports on the front and the cartridge slot at the top. That's different, man. I'd love to have one of those today, though. Another one from David Gyrich. well, a twofer here. He kind of sent back to back, and one is the story of Rambo games in Japan, and it's a decently long article. I mean, it's not. It'll take you 5 minutes to read, but it kind of breaks down the history of all those games, especially the MSX computer, which does not, I think, have the following it should have in America. Um, it was the Japanese version of ISA, except it was much cooler than ISA. So I like it. The next thing up, back to back from him, was a Mario Kart prototype. Now, this is interesting. Mario Kart XXL, the unreleased demo. So it's a video here. It's about 9 minutes long. And it says Mario Kart XXL is a 2004 pitch by Manfred Trenz of Denaris Entertainment Software. The demo showcases the Game Boy Advance's rotation scaling effects when the player controls Mario. It's unknown why the game wasn't picked up. Well, it's a bit it's a bit hard to look at. It's not easy on the eyes. Yes, it does zoom, it rotates, it is neat, but it's this very I mean, the pixels are brightly colored, don't get me wrong, but it's just, I know it's hard to describe the effect. It's so damn busy. Everything, I mean, everything is constantly moving. Instead of having like a nice little wave effect over on the water, and I know that as the carts go around, the white lines of the road kind of have to be redrawn. Every pixel on the entire screen is blinking all at once. It's very distracting, and I personally wouldn't play this for more than 2 seconds. I see right away why it didn't get picked up. But it is a cool hardware demonstration.
Yeah. Let's see. Got one here from Gareth Hamer, and this is one I can talk a little bit about. So, looks like there is speculation that Bungie will be reviving its old franchise Marathon. Um, I played Marathon. So Marathon came out in '94 uh, on the Apple Macintosh. I think they also made Pathways to Darkness or something. I seem to have had for the Apple as well. But Bungie got bought out by Sony earlier this year, and it looks like they want to start making more live service games. Their CEO Pete Parsons said that he wants to bring back multiple franchises by 2025, and Marathon is just one of the franchises that has been dormant for a number of years, because also looks like Konami has said that they're going to be making multiple Silent Hill games. Um, Devolver is bringing back Return to Monkey Island. Square Enix, Idios, blah blah blah, has said that they're going to be doing remasters for some of their classic games like Thief, Tomb Raider, and Legacy of Kain. So I don't know. This is always one of those things you kind of wonder what happens to some of these IPs and why certain ones get greenlit and some just disappear, and you're left wondering where the hell is the next one because that game was so popular. So Marathon, kind of a little bit of a cult classic, certainly for those of us that did gaming on the Apple Macintosh, because we really didn't have much to play back then. But Halo was originally supposed to be an Apple game, which did not end up happening. But yeah, so it looks like Marathon will be coming back out.
Cool. Got a real neat one here that it's only 8 minutes and 30 seconds long, and it was sent in by, let me jump back to the mail, David Gyrich, Smash Brothers Insights from Sakurai. So Masahiro Sakurai, man, Japanese games, I don't think there's vowel strings like that in English language. I'd love to hear him try to pronounce my name. Oh my god. Anyway, this guy is, does a tremendous presentation. I've been watching this here. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this in detail. I kind of dismissed the the Super Smash Brothers, and the reason I did, it was like, all right, so it's just the characters out of games fighting, but where's the game? And every time I've seen it, it is so visually stunning that I think I kind of warmed up to it a little more and a little more and a little more. I'm never going to be competitive. I'm never going to be good at it. It's not for me. But man, is it a cool game in its execution. The concept, I'm still not sold on the concept. Take, characters from games and then just have them beat up on each other with no storyline to speak of. Okay, but the execution is so good, I question my, opinion of the original idea. So anyway, Masahiro goes through, he sort of shows the original prototype, he talks about it. So if you're a Smash Brothers fan, or if you're not, this guy, Masahiro, just lays it out. A lot of things I never knew. Maybe it's old hat to a lot of the fans, but I would say give it a watch and show it some love.
This one, I think we can talk about a little bit. So this is submitted from Charlie, and he says your TV is too bright. So this is an article that came from Digital Trends. Caleb Dennison wrote the story, and the EU is about to ban all the best TVs you can buy. So basically, there's some new legislation over the 27 European nations that make up the EU, and basically, it's new power consumption standards. So based on that, this author did some deep dives and determined that there won't be a single 8K TV that can be sold in the EU, and it would also this new rule would also affect several 4K OLED and QD OLED TVs and some QLED 4K QLED TVs based on their energy performance. So basically, the best TVs that are out, you won't be able to get them come March if this all goes through because of I don't know, um, draconian rules on energy efficiency or something. I mean, it sounds like it's good intentions to sort of reduce energy inefficient
Good
technology,
intentions
but
brought to you by people that, after going to this meeting, fly home on their private jets to their mansions that consume more power than your neighborhood. Fuck them.
yeah, I mean, honestly,
Dude, look, this is all getting to be a bit much. A freaking, Swedish schoolgirl comes up with a cover story for skipping school and collapses the European energy. One of the things that, this month's hardware flashback was a different departure, because I talk about different hardware and different flashbacks. And, it's, Mark, you haven't heard it yet. It's a deep dive discussion on the war in Ukraine from a logistics and hardware position. I invoked owner's privileges. I wanted to talk about this, and it's my podcast, so I did. But this suicidal energy policy of pretending that if the people that push this shit believed a word of it, they wouldn't be buying oceanfront mansions. And I can hear a lot of fingers going in the ears right now. La la la, I'm not listening. I don't want to hear this. When Barack Hussein buys 2 oceanfront mansions, he knows that they're not going to be underwater before the mortgage is paid off, right? And here it is. We are literally at the point. I mean, don't get me started on the dependency on buying natural gas from Russia, who is showing their true colors at this very moment as the homicidal maniacs they are. So, how did it get to this? I mean, this suicidal pact of living in the, rolling blackouts, living in the darkness, unable to heat homes over this nonsensical notion that every year there's a new pontification about the end of the world in 10 years. That, I mean, I can go back 12 years and find pontification saying the world ends today. It's an insane into the world doomsday cult is what it's become. And now they're literally going after goddamn TVs. How are people not sick of these people? I've been sick of them for decades. If you're tired of this, do something about it. Fucking
Well,
TV
so
brightness.
tell me this. Have you made the jump to any 8K monitors yet?
I think honestly that the one in front of me is 8K capable. Um, I run. Let's see here. I run resolutions that you probably. I mean, you do radically different things than I do. I'm running 2560 by 1480 on two different monitors, but technically it's three. So anyway, that is a resolution that works for me that I like and all. The color palette's kind of fucking massive at this point. Um, it's more than I could imagine needing. Um, I'm just not that
Yeah, so
revved up over it, you know.
I have 4K monitors. I do quite a bit. I mean, I shoot in 4K
Yeah, my friend
when I
drones
have
are
video
4K.
project.
My everything I got's 4K pretty much.
Yeah, but the thing is, for at least a lot of my commercial applications, um, I still do a lot of 1920 by 1080 just because, and a lot of times smaller because I'm crunching stuff for websites and things like that. So I shoot in 4K, 60 frames per second, but usually, we'll knock that down to slower frame rate, just because it some people don't like the fluid look of it. And I do have one monitor that's quad HD, and I just find that at least for my machine, having multiple 4K monitors set up just really is extra taxing on the video card, and it's not really necessary. I can kind of see everything I need to see in QHD for the most part. So I usually have a QHD monitor set up in addition to a 4K. Generally, don't run multiple 4Ks just because it just taxes it more than it needs to. But I have not made the jump to 8K. I mean, shit, I don't even really know what you'd watch. I have a
Yeah, I
pretty
honestly,
badass.
the difference, the jump from like 720 to 1080 was substantial and noticeable and all that. Above 480, I'm sorry, above the 1080, I personally don't perceive a huge leap in quality going above that. And look, some people are audiophiles. They listen to every little nuance and go, "Oh no, you can hear this mid range so much better in this thing." Eh, maybe. I'm not a video file, whatever. So honestly, I mean, I got a pretty kick-ass video card that has 4 display ports that can kick out. I believe it's 4K on each port, or maybe it's 8K on each port. I can't remember. I know it's built. It's not a gaming card. It's a workstation graphics card, and that's what I bought it for. It's way more than I need. Way more than I need. I don't care. But you said something there that kind of I hit on where you're talking about the fluidity of it. I think that's a good word to describe if you're describing the same effect I'm thinking of, where especially like older shows on too good of a modern TV, it's this weird, liquidy kind of sliding effect, like the image just kind of slides around the screen. It's a real weird, I've heard some people describe it as being a function of the refresh rate, but it just doesn't look pleasing to watch anymore. It's too harsh. There's no warmth to it. Um,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of movies and stuff, and video files will tell you, you want to knock down that frame rate. You don't want 60 or 120. It just looks too fluid and stuff like that. But I mean, honestly, I've seen 8K monitors. I've seen 8K TVs. The price is just ridiculous once you get up above 60 inches right now. Like I said, we're redoing the basement and looking at putting like, like a 90-inch TV down there, and I'll do 4K. But to do something that size, because I have a really big wall, in order to do something that size, I'm going from 2 grand to like 10 grand. It's like a 5 or 6x to jump up from 4K to 8K. And quite honestly, I don't even
Yeah, I'm
know
not gonna do
what the
that.
hell. Yeah, like what the hell are you gonna watch? Like the machines, most people don't have machines capable of truly editing in 4K, 8K at this point. Like, I don't personally have a camera. I've worked with some photographers and videographers that have 8K cameras. I'll probably upgrade to a A1 at some point, on my Sony. I've worked with some folks with some Black Magic and stuff like that that can shoot in 8K. But I mean, the file size is so ridiculous to try to edit and work on something. I mean, you have to have an insane computer. The speeds just aren't there yet. Even editing in 4K, is it was quite cumbersome up until maybe 2 years ago when people started getting, adequate machines to fully edit that kind of video and stuff. And I'm
Oh yeah, for
talking
my
like,
Plex, man, I pretty much everything in my Plex. There are a lot of original things that just are in like a 720 or 480, but pretty much everything I download, I download either the 1020 or the 4K version. I'm not downloading the 8K versions yet, but even then, just predominantly downloading the higher, 4K or so res of this. I'm at 124 terabytes of space on a NAS used for movies and TV. A lot of those files are in the 8 gigabyte range, easy, um, easy 12 gig for some movies and all, and I can't really see much of a difference between the 1080 and the 4K. I'm not going to go out and buy, because most of the times when you go out and buy cutting edge hardware, the price rapidly tumbles, and you've got the first gen of hardware that in a year is cheaper and better. I'll just stuff like TVs, whatever. I'll just buy when they're off the shelf and ready to go. I'm not buying cutting edge for that. So, um,
yeah, I mean,
somebody,
there's really not a lot of content available in 8K. I mean, I ran 8K lines through my walls, but um, yeah, it's gonna be a couple years. I mean, shit, there's still a lot of companies that aren't putting out 4K yet. So I mean,
oh yeah,
that's really just kind of hitting its stride. So I think we're a ways off until you really have to worry about upgrading to 8K.
yep. But somebody did a pretty cool upgrade on Windows 95 using a application called Electron, which is used to create like GUI environments and things. The fellow that did this, he worked on Electron. He also worked on the financial infrastructure for Stripe and things like that. So he's got this pet project where he wanted to recreate Windows 95 as a single file executable that will run Windows 95. He just dumped a new version of it, 3.1.1, and it's basically a small, say a 300 megabyte executable, and it's Windows 95 in a platform. It uses the Chrome engine and is you can run Windows 95 and run Windows 95 things pretty much in a window on either Linux, Windows, or Mac. So that's cool to have Windows 95 window in your Linux machine. So that's pretty neat.
Just checking the chat, seeing if anything notable in there real quick. Let's see what else we got. Coolest kind of insane Commodorian sent in from Spinal. Let's see. He sends us in a YouTube video. I've not checked this one yet. and looks like my computer is
This
struggling.
is fucking nuts, dude. Why?
Oh, it's a accordion made out of Commodores. This is great.
It certainly is.
Actually, I had several of Eastern European descent and have several family members that played the accordion, and I have an accordion here that I pull out just like sort of as a spoof every once in a while. But it's pretty complex musical instrument. I certainly can't play it. I just kind of move it back and forth. And sometimes when I'm on Zoom calls and shit, like, and it's getting boring, I'll pull the accordion out and people will look over and they're like, "Oh wow, you play the accordion." Um, I just kind of move it back and forth. But this is cool. This guy took some old Commodore 64 keypads and attached them to the bellows.
Well, I mean, those are it's a Commodore 64, and the whole motherboard, the entire computer is within the keypad in the keyboard. But yeah, he basically has a microphone at the bellows, reading things, and it's generating waveforms. It's a pretty cool. It's only like an 11-minute video, but he does a pretty deep dive in exactly how he built this thing. So it is exactly that, a Commodore accordion. So
yeah.
well,
Now, how is he getting the pixel sounds? Is it some kind of like MIDI thing, or
is a whole 11-minute video describing exactly that. I couldn't listen to it while we were doing this, as you know, because we were doing this. But it's pretty cool project. So that is the end of our available news. So UK Mike will be arriving to shut down the feed shortly.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh, here he is.
How was the first American news?
Well, we're not going to tell you.
I suppose I'll have to listen back to it and find out.
Permanent. Yeah, we'll have to do American news more often.
We made some changes while you're out. Liz is out. Bojo's back in.
Yep. Actually, hot off the press, Bojo's just bowed out of the race.
Really?
Yeah. Just now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want, because he jetted back there real quick from someplace else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if he said, nope, not under these circumstances, or who knows? Interesting.
Yeah. Who knows? Not me. Didn't want him anyway, the toss pot. They're all toss pots, let's face it.
Yeah, I mean, who do you guys got that's... Well, I don't know. I mean, Trust could have... maybe could have been okay. She never got a chance. So.
No.
You just need a dictator, like a monarch or something, to run your country. You got too many people in that damn government over there.
Yeah. Trouble is, our monarch's a fucking green fucking idiot. Should have skipped a generation and gone to William, I reckon.
Oh, I don't know. He's not setting the world on fire either. I mean, the whole idea of the monarchy is kind of insane anyway. But,
yeah. Especially this day and age it is.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you this. One question. Not whether it's... I mean, I get the idea of a national prestige, continuity of government, a certain expression of culture. I mean, I get that, right? But one question. Can you afford it?
No.
Can you afford a fleet of pampered people and their massive mansions and their expensive accounts for this purpose?
No. And I mean, it's the whole thing's just ridiculous, you know. The state funeral we paid for while they sit on the hundreds of millions, if not billions. And then Charles inherits everything off the Queen, and he doesn't have to pay inheritance tax. So we're giving to them all the time. And you would think maybe in this day and age, under the current climate, maybe a gesture. Okay, I'll pay some inheritance tax. No, they don't live in the same world as we do.
No one wants to pay taxes. You don't want to pay taxes. I don't want to pay taxes.
Yeah,
he
but
don't want to pay taxes.
He'll inherit like he would inherit, say, 600 million instead of 700 million or whatever. It's retarded.
That
And
word is
that
no longer
coffee's why
PC,
I
Mike.
haven't partaken in the news. Ah, dear. So, we'll say good night to the good people then. There was a few people in chat. I was in there chatting. Somebody really not happy with us because we haven't been cruel enough to Tommy Tallarico, apparently. But okay.
Well, what do you want us to say? I mean,
Yeah, hold on.
what have we not said? I think I literally said I hope he loses his home and is living under. But Mike, I mean, back me up. Did I not literally say for this shit that he pulled and completing the work of Kennedy and assassinating the ability to bring retro consoles back to market, that I wanted him to be living in a cardboard box behind his former home? I believe I said that.
I believe you did as well. Yeah.
What else can I really do for this fellow?
I don't know. I did ask him if he was listening to the same podcast, but anyway. Can't please all the people all the time. And I'm glad I don't have to.
I've even tried.
Well, all right. Thank you to our American contingent for picking up the slack where me and Random let go. And thank you for those who were in chat. And we'll see you again next month for another live news and hopefully with the full requisition of hosts. So, good night, everybody. Say good night, everybody.
Night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Happy Halloween.